Hello, hello, hello. Good evening and happy Thursday. If it's Thursday at 8 o'clock, that must mean it's time for Veganish. I am your host, Dr. Monique, the board certified family physician who you know as a physician in the kitchen. And I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedules. And on this show, we talk about my vegan or plant based journey, and I bring you along with all my tips, tricks, challenges, successes, and we learn and we share and we grow together. So I am super excited to be here with you tonight. Mr. Ellis, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am charged up about this episode tonight. I'm sitting. Look, I got my pen and my pad ready. I'm over here. I'll be taking some notes.
Taking notes,
I'm
taking notes.
getting it in.
We've got so much to get to today. So you all get ready for the fastest 30 minutes of your day. So I'm gonna, you know how we do here, right? The top of the show, we welcome you, we thank you, because this show is for you. This show is for you and it's about you. And so we so appreciate you coming in live. If you're watching the replay, if you're tagging people, thank you, thank you, thank you. So here's where we take time and honor and recognize you. Drop where you are watching us from. Rep your city, rep your zip code, rep your state, rep your country, because we're global, y'all. There are Black people on like every planet, every continent.
I don't know about Antarctica. I'm
Connected.
like six out of seven. I'm gonna go 6 or 7. There's some black folks there. It might be some black folks on Antarctica too, chilling.
Just about every continent is what I'm trying to say. But so we're global. So this information is important for you to share. So thank you so much. If you are watching this on the replay, please comment #replay and let us know. I'm so excited, y'all. Okay, I'm excited for a variety of reasons. It's April and my Tar Heels are still playing. So I got my fingernails did. I got my fingernails and my toenails. Y'all can't see my toenails, but my toenails are done. We're so excited. My son and I are actually going to go up to Chapel Hill Saturday to watch the game. So I'm super
You will
excited.
be in the middle of all that foolishness.
We're going to be in the Dean Dome. Yes, yes. And then we're going to go out and celebrate afterwards on Franklin Street. Any Tar Heels watching, please let me know. So, but I'm just excited. I mean, tomorrow's April. Can you believe it? It's April, right? So we are well into spring. My son is sneezing his head off. So yes, it is springtime.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I'm super excited tonight because if y'all thought one Dr. Monique was just like mind blowing, y'all not ready because we got two Dr. Monique's for you tonight. We will be joined shortly by Dr. Monique Gary, an esteemed breast cancer surgeon out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I went to medical school at Temple. And she's going to be joining me as we give you information on inflammation. That's the topic for tonight.
You said a mouthful right there. You rolled that off, right?
Okay. I love alliteration. I'm a word nerd. I love rhyming. I love alliteration. So yes, information on inflammation. So tag everybody. Let them come on in here. So there she is. Dr. Gary said we're on every planet. That's right. I'm speaking it into existence. Let's see. We've got Rancho Cucamonga. There she is. The lady of the hour. Hey, Dr. Mo. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. How are you today?
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to be here. Let me tell you something. As soon as you said Black folks are on every planet, I was like, yes, we're throughout the multiverse. Listen, Afrofuturism lives over here in Pennsylvania, so I'm excited about it. And you know what the future looks like for us? It looks like us imagining a healthier future, right? Like this is really real.
Yes.
And we get to create that in our minds, in our gardens, on these programs, on this here interwebs. And it's pretty awesome. So thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad I get to return the favor. I was for those of you who don't know, I was on her show on Tuesday. We were talking about kidney disease and how to prevent it. And so we got to pay it forward. We're doing a crossover. NBC and CBS are not the only ones that could do the crossovers, right? BlackDoctor.org got the crossover, right? Almost as nice as Steph Curry's. But so we've got St. Louis, we've got Queens to represent. That's where my family is. Rancho, oh my gosh, Cucamonga. I hope
Rancho Cucamonga. That's what they shot next Friday.
Okay, that sounds like California. And then hey, Dr. Jaquel, and then we've got Boston, MA, Boston, Massachusetts. All right. We've got so much to get to tonight. I'm Dr. Mo. If it's okay with you, I'm going to give them a little background as far as when we talk about inflammation, what we mean.
Yes, please.
And then we'll bring it into like what that means, why doctors freak out about inflammation. So inflammation is actually it's in two phases. Typically, is what when we talk about inflammation, we talk about acute and chronic. So acute inflammation, and basically, let's just kind of set the stage. Inflammation is your body's way of fighting a foreign invader. Okay, that's think about your house. You know, you have an alarm, you have a camera. If anybody tries to get in there or somebody's not supposed to be there, what happens? Your alarm, you know, your camera triggers, your alarm may sound. That's kind of like what your immune system does when challenged by, you know, a bacteria, a virus, pollen, and, you know, anything that's foreign to the body. And that's actually a good thing because in the acute phase, that's what your body is supposed to do. So, for example, say you get stung by a bee, what happens? Skin gets red, gets a little swelling, maybe a little painful. If you sprain your ankle, there's swelling, you may not be able to move it. All of those are acute signs of inflammation, right? Typically, what we call self limited, go away on their own, may or may not need medication, but they don't leave any long lasting damage, right?
Mhm.
So that type of inflammation, we're not as concerned about as doctors. What we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about tonight, and hope that you take away some key points, is chronic inflammation. Okay. They say money is the root of all evil. Inflammation is the root of all evil when it comes to your health. Okay. And so you are going to be learning tonight about chronic inflammation, what it is, how we test for it, and more importantly, what can you do to prevent it? Okay. So, because even though as much as I love Dr. Monique, she's a breast cancer surgeon. Okay. And we want her dealing with benign disease, those fibrocystic breasts and those lumps that no problem. Keep them coming. But the cancer is what we're really trying to prevent. Okay. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So let me just give a little more information. So when we talk about inflammation, we actually can test for it, right? There are blood tests we can do. Well, first of all, we take a history and a physical exam. Let me back up and go back old school. I'm old school, y'all. I graduated med school in 1996, and we learned how to take a good history and do a good physical. So I talk to you, I find out what's going on, and then I examine you. And I should have a pretty good idea what's going on with you. Dr. Mo, I see you shaking your head. Do you agree with me?
Absolutely right. You know, and there are certain things that people will say when they have chronic inflammation, right? When this has been going on for some time, there's certain phrases you're going to hear. You know, I feel really fatigued. I feel aches and pains in these areas, and it's constant. I can't get comfortable. I don't have any energy. You know, like there is some warning signs about chronic inflammation in the body, and when you take that good history and that good physical, the patient will start to clue you into those. You're right.
Exactly. And so she mentioned chronic. So again, chronic is typically lasting more than 6 weeks. So acute is 4 to 6, and chronic is 6 weeks or more. And that chronic inflammation we know now is the underlying role player in dementia, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, joint problems, inflammatory bowel disease. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So as doctors, after we take that history and do that physical, then we're going to order some tests, right? There's some blood tests we can do. C-reactive protein, ESR, your SED rate. We can do acute phase reactants, ferritin levels, etc. All of these things are kind of like little barometers that can tell us, hey, this person is having some inflammation going on in the body. We also can do biopsies, right? Take a little Dr. Mo, she'll take a little piece of tissue, send it to the lab, let them look at it. We can look at x-rays to see inflammation. So lots of different ways to diagnose and tell you what type of inflammation you have. Again, we're here though to talk about how do we prevent that, okay? Because chronic inflammation is not good. If you think about it, that example we said about your house alarm, you don't want your alarm going off all the time, right? You don't want the sirens going off. So with chronic inflammation, the body doesn't get to reset. And in some cases, the body recognizes your own protein, your own tissues as foreign. And we see that in conditions like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and scleroderma, sarcoidosis, all kinds of things. So lots to unpack there, but I want to recognize some more folks. We've got some more people joining us from Miami Gardens, Miami, Florida. Was just down there not too long ago. I love it. Washington, D.C.
Those are my Florida folks. They represent.
That's right.
Hey,
That's
that's
right.
right.
And then of course we got Philly in the house. So thank you. So Ellis, I want to bring you into the conversation as well. So far, just from what you've heard, as the you are our man on the street voice, right? You are our guy on the street. What questions do you have, or what insight, or just what do you think as far as what you've heard so far?
Well, one of the things I had some concerns about it because I've had some lingering pain in certain areas, and then I'm just have some concerns like, okay, is that inflammation? Is it could I you see the commercials for fibromyalgia? I'm like, I don't know if it's that serious, but it's like, at what point should someone say, you know what, I need to go and get this checked out versus just it's as my grandmother would say, everything was gas, right? You had stuff right was gas, right? So it was like you
Right.
drink a ginger ale, you take a BC powder, and you keep it moving. And I know that's old school remedies, but I was like, what's that line of demarcation in terms of when should I say, is this just something that I exercise wrong, did I sleep wrong, or is it something that I should go get checked out?
Excellent question. And Dr. Mo, I want you to answer that from a surgeon's perspective, and then I'll talk about it from more of a primary care perspective.
Sure. So from a surgeon's perspective, you will have already seen a primary care physician, right? So you've had just let's say a shoulder, your shoulder's been kind of bugging you. You've had some heat to it. You've got some problems stretching. You got some achiness in the morning. You've taken a couple Advil, hasn't really seemed to help. You put some heat on it, hasn't really seemed to help. It's been going on for, I'm going to say, a couple weeks to about a month. Then you need to go and see your primary care doctor, right? And your PCP will say, okay, well, let's figure out what we need to do. Do we need to do some x-rays? Do we need to look at your muscle? Do we need to look at something else that could be going on? They're going to ask questions about your sleeping patterns. Do you sleep on one side? How are you using that joint? Because maybe there's some overuse or some bursitis, inflammation inside the joint space. And so then they may send you for more tests. At that point, you should start to formulate a plan with your doctors, whether you see an orthopedic doctor, a pain specialist. If you have a suspicion for something like a rheumatoid arthritis, you might see a rheumatologist or a person who specializes in those types of inflammation. And so I'm going to say the short answer is really about a month or so, 4 weeks into 6 weeks, that's getting into chronicity. So if you're having symptoms that aren't going away, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, by the fourth week, you need to go see somebody.
And I agree completely. And I'll just add to that. And then Dr. Mo, I'm going to come back to you about breast cancer specifically. But what I want to add to that is what we call red red warning sign or red flags, where the things that you tell us as the patient that makes us our barometer start going off. So she mentioned nighttime nocturnal pain that wakes you up out of your sleep. That needs to be checked out. Okay. Pain that, or if your pain is associated with weight loss or fevers or rashes, right? So the more body parts that are involved, right? That's something that you definitely need to get checked out. And I would even say sooner than later. I mean, if you've got just shoulder pain, you knew you were out, throwing the ball with the kids and your shoulders aching, that's one thing. But if you just kind of have pain that's unexplained, it's keeping you up at night, there's weight loss, there's skin changes, there's loss of function, any of those kinds of things go sooner than later. So it's a great question. I do want to circle back though, because there you go. Take those notes.
I got to make a phone call.
We make an appointment.
I love it. Every time you learn something new, Ellis, and he's always like, well, that's me. Let me write that down. Oh, that sounds like my diet. Let me cross that off the list. But she's right, in terms of the onset of things, right? Like if you're a golfer or if you're doing something and it's overuse versus if it's just all of a sudden happened out of the blue, that's a different type of scenario. And that's why that history is so important.
And actually, we have a question from Natalie. Is carpal tunnel an example of chronic inflammation? It is. Basically, carpal tunnel is, like she just said, is an overuse. Typically, typing, we're all on our computers, other things, but actually being overweight can increase your risk for it. Being pregnant, having thyroid disease, all of those are risk factors for it. And so basically, it's inflammation or swelling of this little tiny tunnel. That's why it's called carpal tunnel. The carpals are the little bones in your wrist, and they form a little tunnel. And through that little tunnel goes nerves and goes arteries and tendons. So not a lot of space in there. So if there's inflammation, guess what? It's going to compress on those nerves and you'll get that tingling discomfort typically in the thumb, index, middle, and part of the ring finger. So yes, that is a form of inflammation that definitely, you want to get checked out. So I want to come back to, because while we've got her, I'm going to pick her brain. So Dr. Mo, tell us how inflammation, what that shows up like for you in your work as a breast cancer surgeon, and we're gonna get into what kind of foods cause it and what kind of foods improve it, because it's veganish. We gotta talk about the food, but tell us, as a surgeon, what is one thing that you want people to, women particularly, but men can get breast cancer too. What is something that you want them to be aware of as far as inflammation and breast cancer?
Ooh, wee. So I think that, oh my gosh, I love this question. And the answer is so rich because inflammation, as you said, is the root of so much evil in the body, right? And so when you think about the body, you need to not compartmentalize it into just what is good for my breast. Because I'll give you an example, smoking, right? When we smoke, it's not just nicotine that causes a problem. It's all those other toxins in cigarettes that creates inflammation in that body. And yes, it's inflammation in the lungs, but guess where those toxins go? They go to the bloodstream. And then guess where the blood goes? Everywhere else. And so now you've got a problem it's a systemic problem, not just I smoke and my lungs are bad. Let's look at our gut, our colons, right? People think, oh, the inflammation in the colon is what causes colon cancer. But when there's inflammation in your bowels and your colon, that means the walls get weaker. And that means that bacteria can get into the blood vessels and creep through the walls. And that bacteria can go any place in the body. It's called bacterial translocation. And that's a setup for things like breast cancer and stomach cancer, prostate cancer. And so when you think about how your body heals and responds to inflammation and ways to reduce your risk for cancer, you got to think globally. And that is the biggest thing I want people to take away from this, is that the body is connected from your eyes to your thighs, from your head to your toes. It's all interconnected. And the things you put in your mouth impact your breast, impact your lungs, impact your colon. And so you got to look at it from a really holistic perspective.
I love that, Dr. Mo. I so love that, because you're really speaking to me as a family physician, because we focus on the whole body, but it's so easy for people to think, oh, I just have to be worried about the tatas, right?
Right.
Or but like you said, I mean, I think you said a whole word in that, because yeah, it's all connected. And the other part of that we're learning more about in medicine and starting to pay more attention to is the mind body connection, because we tend to
Yes.
separate those two, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's like, no, the brain is at the top of the body for a reason,
That's
right?
right.
Everything
And you know what
flows.
inflammation in your mind looks like? Stress, anxiety, depression.
Alzheimer's, exactly.
Right. Inflammation in
Exactly.
the brain itself, but how about in the mind, in that spirit,
I
right?
see.
Inflammation
Exactly.
of the mind looks like anxiety. You can't turn that motor off. It looks like you're not sleeping at night. It looks like it's always going, that background chatter. Those are pro-inflammatory things that impact your psyche. I'm
And
just putting it
if
out
I
there.
can see,
That's
now you're coming around my block. So you're on my block right now. So information in mind, the mind going, what happens is your gut continues to churn. Stomach acid builds up because you're always nervous. You got that anxiety building up about the job, about the kids, when you're worried about stuff. What happens?
Mhm.
All that stomach acid builds up, causes ulcers and other things that can happen as a result. So that inflammation of the mind does affect, so that's an impact. So we always say, there's things that we say, I had a gut feeling. But that's that mind body connection that happens, and we don't recognize when we're doing it on a daily basis. But even your mind, you think it's separate. It's not. We can't keep all these illnesses in silos, and we can't keep our brain separated from the rest of our body, because your body's going to tell you. You just got to recognize it.
That's right.
I agree completely. Well, Dr. Mel kind of set us up when she said what goes in your mouth is important. So let's go ahead and start talking about the food. Because and a spoiler alert, it's the stuff we've already been talking about. If y'all been watching Veganish, it's the same. It's I wish I could make it sexier and surprise you, but I'm not. It's the same thing. But it goes back to what she was saying. When you eat well, when you eat right, it affects your whole body. So it really shouldn't be much of a surprise. But I want to bring in the audience. If you guys have been watching the show, some of these you should be able to put some of these answers in the chat. What are some of the foods that you think are going to be pro-inflammatory? If you had to name pro-inflammatory food. Go ahead and start dropping those in the chat, because on this show, what we try to do is tell you, look, this is the stuff you should do without or minimize, and here are some healthier options. So, but it's baby steps, right? I've never told you, hey, go out and clean out your whole pantry right now and start over. No. But as you're shopping, as you're making your list and you're replenishing, be mindful of some foods that you can start to make those small swaps. And then before long, it'll add up. Sugar, broccoli as pro-inflammatory, or are you trying to answer the next question? Because
I think she jumped the gun on that one.
I think she jumped the gun on that one.
You said pro. That's why I put cause. Look, I told you about talking to the people. You got to talk to the people in the back of the classroom. Okay, I told you about that.
We got to give her.
People thought that was a good thing. You said
we're going to give her an extra credit. We're going to give her half a point of extra credit for anticipating the next question.
That's right.
But sugar, salt, processed foods, sherry. Sherry is that's the ringer right there.
Yeah.
But sherry, yes, processed foods. So Tamara said she had it backwards. That's okay, sis. I know what you meant.
I had it backwards too, Tamara. Me and you were in the same street.
Look at this next one.
Anything with preservatives.
Whew, that's a word right there, right?
That's a whole word. That we could do a show just on that. Thank you for giving us a show topic. Preservatives. But yes, but what is the vegetable that our children eat the most of or early on? It's a vegetable technically, but anything white, yes. French fries.
Oh yeah.
French fries. Who doesn't get their babies French fries, right? Because it's so cute.
No, they can hold it in their hand.
They can hold it, but French fries and other fried foods, right? Because the frying process, what you do is you oxygenate the oil, the chemicals in the oil, and the oxygenated molecules. I don't want to get too chemistry because actually that wasn't my strong suit in school. But you make those more active. Yes. Those compounds become more active and more inflammatory. And so that's why they're not recommended. So sugar, soda and sugary drinks, margarine, shortening, lard, all of this. Somebody said white bread, white rice. Because
dairy, cheese and dairy. Milk and cheese.
Lard, Crisco. My grandmother cooked with Crisco. Lord have mercy. We would fry up some fish in some Crisco. That's right. Pie crust.
Exactly. But all of those things we know, again, start this inflammatory process, this cascade, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? And that's the kind of the good thing is once you're aware, you can start making changes because it's not happening over like immediately. It's a process. So when you know better and you do better, you start to reverse some of that. Right.
I want to jump in here.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let me jump in on the it's a process thing, because that is something that when a cancer develops, and by the time a cancer develops, because we want to look at food as preventative, right? How do we use our food to prevent and to reverse? But by the time things like cancer develop, our bodies are already depleted in a lot of ways. And it's been a process that's been building over many years. And so you really want to think about your diet in that same way, right? Just switching everything immediately isn't going to make that cancer necessarily go away, but you can begin to reverse that process. Just as slowly as we got to where we are, we can begin to turn back the clock, but it's not instant. And I think that people get really frustrated when they try to change that diet and they realize that, you know what, I didn't instantly lose weight. I started eating cauliflower yesterday. Like, wait, what happened? I started drinking that apple cider vinegar and, taking that sea moss and I still got some extra inches here. We didn't put it on right away. We're not going to take it off right away.
Exactly. And in our society, though, everybody wants to, the quick fix and everything. And unfortunately, that's just not, that's just not how it works. So I see where, again, this time goes by so fast. Dr. Mo, we're going to have you back. But
how many of y'all got that bacon drip? Y'all still got that jar of bacon grease in your refrigerator? Tell the truth. I'm asking the people that's watching. If you got that coffee mug full of bacon grease just raise your hand. Go on, say it.
They can maybe do that in the private chat. They don't have to put that on blast.
I got rid of mine. I'm so proud. My grandmother must be rolling over. I said she must be rolling over in her grave, but I got rid of mine. Yeah.
Yes, they're good for you. But so conversely, we had the one person said broccoli. Conversely, then what should you eat? leafy green vegetables, right? Whole wheats, grains, nuts. If you do the Mediterranean diet, which is an anti-inflammatory diet, that does include fish, salmon, fatty fish like salmon, tuna, mackerel, sardines. But if you're doing the vegan route, of course, you would eliminate that. But you want tomatoes. Tomatoes are little like powerhouses of anti-inflammatory just fighting brigade. I mean, they have so many benefits for your skin, for men, for their prostates, for your for digestive health. So many different benefits of tomatoes. I have so many varieties of tomatoes in my pantry, canned, crushed. I mean, as far as canned tomatoes, crushed and diced and paste, and because you can do so much with it, and they're economical. Canned tomatoes, and actually, believe it or not, canned tomatoes are actually healthier for you than because what happens is in the canning process, the lycopene and the antioxidants are actually not condensed but enhanced, and so you actually get a much better nutritional boost from that. And also things like garlic and turmeric and ginger, these are herbs and spices that make our food taste good, but they also are they have antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, anti, okay? And so, if you're not using
Anti-cancer. Let me throw it out
anti-cancer,
there. When we talk about an
anti-cancer.
anti-cancer diet, it is very much an anti-inflammatory diet as well.
Mhm.
Garlic, turmeric, ginger, right? Our antioxidants through our fruits, right? Our tart cherries and all those things are really, really wonderful. Somebody put green tea in the chat.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Coffee and green tea. So caffeine can be protective, but definitely the green tea. So cinnamon for inflammation, yes. Yeah, any herbs and spices. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. You just, there's no calories essentially, right? And they enhance the flavor of our food, but more importantly, they are beneficial, So if you're not using them or not using them as often, please start to increase and add that to your repertoire, and that'll help you also do what? Cut back on salt, right? Because salt, if you're salting your food, salt is meant to be an enhancer. Okay, think of salt as like like the quiet conductor, in the symphony. The conductor doesn't play any instrument, but it helps everybody else harmonize, right? He or she helps everybody else harmonize. That's how you think of salt, because you put a little bit, that's gonna help that oregano stand up. That's gonna help that curry, and all the stuff that you're using, but you're not aware of that salt. And salt, that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yes, it
As far
is.
as the role that it plays in heart disease and stroke and kidneys. And so, I mean, Dr. Mo, we are at the bottom of
Great game.
our
You know, I'm,
time.
I'm a big fan of and I noticed like because we talked about curry the other day, and as a way to as a flavor enhancer. So I don't know if it has any medicinal purposes, but we understand that if you can get away from salt, anything you can get away from salt, pepper is great, pepper is good, but that salt is bad because we
Right.
know hypertensive effects, and we even talked about it the other day when we were talking about kidney health. Really recommended is like 1,300 milligrams of sodium per day. Black folks, cut that in half. Okay. Another quick fact: tomatoes they originated from Africa. I just want to let y'all know that tomatoes were brought here with some other fruits and vegetables with enslaved folks, and so it should be natural for us to eat it, as Black people. And so eat those tomatoes, get those green leafy vegetables, almonds as a snack, almonds, walnuts, those type of things.
Nuts.
They
Yep.
also a heart. They are kind of vessel cleansing. They help remember we talked about that fattiness that builds up in those arteries. Those walnuts, those almonds, those oats will help clear that out and keep that heart healthy and reduce some of the inflammation that we build up.
Yep. Before we close out, there are a couple of very good questions I do want to get to. There was someone with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is basically an where the body attacks the thyroid gland. That's one of those immune disorders. And she's asking, is there a chance to overjuice or overuse raw veggies? I would say let your body tell you the answer to that, because if you're eating a lot of fiber, then you may get a lot of gas, a lot of bloating, things like that. So my recommendation would be to start low and go slow, and especially if it's a new diet for you, if a new thing that you're adding to your diet, just kind of watch that and adjust that based on how you feel. But health wise, unless you're on certain medications, I would say probably not. Then Dr. Mo answered the question about the person who has joint pain when they eat tomatoes. So yeah, they can. There's the nightshade.
Is that acid? Is that the acid in the tomatoes?
Uric acid.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can cause the gout to flare up, And on the subject of juicing and too much juicing, I would say only if you're diabetic, if you're consuming large quantities of sugar, that could be somewhat problematic. If you've got maybe some acid reflux and you're consuming large amounts of citrus or things like that, cause an acid reflux. But otherwise, these are the healthiest things that you can do, and you want to get more sugar from your fruits and from your diet than from anything else. And so, everything has some degree of sugar in it. Carbohydrates are part of our diet, but you can kind of control where they come from, and getting that good fiber, like Dr. Monique said, is super, super important.
Yeah, and all carbs are not bad. You want the complex carbs. So the whole wheat, the natural grains, those are good carbs, right? Those help with the fiber, the complex carbs that contribute to fiber. That helps with your bowel, your regularity, decreasing colon cancer. So all carbs are not bad. It's the more complex. And the way I think about it is, it's something, anything good is worth working for, right? So when you give your body complex carb, it has to break it down. You get more controlled sugar levels versus those simple sugars that's in Fruit Loops and white rice, where your sugar goes up and then comes back down. Your body didn't do any work. So that's not how our bodies were made and designed. So carbs, it depends on the quality of the carb that you want to keep in mind. So this time,
Marilyn, Himalayan salt. I know it's sexy, and I know I get salt. It's salt. Okay,
it's salt. It's salt. And as a finisher,
on your body.
I got all the salt. I got the pink salt.
Exfoliate with it. Do something else with the Himalayan
salt. All the salts, but I try to call myself a chef. It's still salt.
I do want to say, though, when I say salt to salt, I'm gonna put a little asterisk by that, because actually I use a lot of kosher salt to cook with versus table salt. And if you take a teaspoon of kosher versus a teaspoon of regular salt, you actually get less salt in a teaspoon of kosher, because the crystals are bigger. So if you think about it, it's less that can fit in a spoon. So if you're looking for a way to cut back, switch over to kosher salt, because you get fewer granules measurement for measurement than you do with regular
and it
salt.
has a more intense flavor, so you'll use
and it helps. It
has a stronger soft flavor, so you'll use less of it.
Exactly.
When you use the kosher
Doesn't
salt.
take a lot. Doesn't take a lot at all.
I like to use the coarse sea salt as well, but the kosher salt is better.
Yep.
But yeah.
But Sherry, thank you so much, Sherry. Doctor's Appreciation Day. Thank you so much for that. So I know I've had a great time. Dr. Mo, have you?
This has been incredible, because the way I always tell patients, the things that prevent chronic and preventable illnesses also help prevent cancer. And that's what we've been talking about today, so that you don't have to come and see me. We can regulate these things. We can control inflammation in our body and reduce our risk, because that's really what it's all about. So thank you so much for having me. We got to do this again.
But you know what? I'm so sorry. I can't let you get out of here, because fibrocystic breast disease. Can you give us like a 30-second what Black women need to know, and then we can have you back and we can talk about it more in detail. But I can't leave without us saying something about it.
All right. So fibrocystic breasts are the lumpy, bumpy changes that happen in the dense breast tissue due to volume changes, due to swelling in the cystic spaces. And that can happen from hormonal changes. So menstrual cycle, right? Because that changes the hormones that makes our fluid level shift in our breast. Salty food, fatty food, caffeine, all exacerbate or make worse. It makes it flare up. Fibrocystic breast pain and those cysts. Chocolate. Believe it or not, I have one patient, she eats one Hershey Kiss and her breasts are in complete discomfort. So you've got to really look at your diet, because there are foods that can make fibrocystic changes worsen, and that feels like lumps that are tender that kind of come and go. It's a little bit different than breast cancer on the exam, but still something that your doctor needs to take seriously. They need to do some imaging. We don't have, x-ray vision. So if you have a lump, you go to your doctor and they take it seriously. But many times it can be fibrocystic, especially especially if it's painful, especially if you're stressed out, you're having hormonal changes, imbalances, PCOS, periods, things like that can all cause it.
Thank you for that.
So remember our tips: shout the perimeter, eat the rainbow,
There you go.
do salt, drink more water,
And exercise.
get good rest, and exercise. So we're gonna say that every show. So that's the key to a healthy life.
And that's it.
I love it. It's like those episodes of Scooby Doo where you know who the villain is. You know, you pull it off and you're like, it was really the mayor. It was the janitor. We know what these foods are. We know what's happening in the body. We just got to do something about it.
Exactly. So, and everybody, if you're watching, please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Physician in the Kitchen. And please, if you're making some of these delicious dishes, we've talked about all this food, share with me. I'd love to see what you guys are coming up with so I can, steal some of those ideas. But tag me at Physician in the Kitchen. I'd love to see what you're doing in your kitchens and how you are taking charge of your health. And visit the dentist. That's right, because dental yuck mouth can cause problems below too. So you said that. You sure did. So
you dated yourself when you said yuck mouth. You got to be of a certain age to know what yuck mouth is.
Y'all don't know about Romy Rome. Y'all don't know about Romy Rome in the house. Come on now.
Oh my goodness.
I remember that Saturday morning jingle. That's where it came from.
Yuck mouth. Boy, oh boy.
So if you're younger, if you're under, if you still got a 3 in front of your age, just go to YouTube and Google yuck mouth. Mm-hmm. And you'll see a cartoon and it's a little jingle and it tells you what yuck mouth is. So floss, if you brush your teeth, you go see the dentist, floss every day. Flossing, if you do not floss, your teeth, you're missing 30% of your teeth by not flossing. And that food sits in there and it causes decay. But yeah, floss, please.
Yes. All right, y'all. We done covered it from head to toe, literally. I mean, we even got in your mouth. So,
it's true.
So until next time, I am one of the Dr. Monique's.
That's right.
I'm the other one. You can follow me at Dr. Monique Gary on all social media outlets, talking about all things cancer, ways to reduce your risk, ways to detect it, ways to tell somebody about it, how to advocate for it. So I am here for it. And thank you so much again, Ellis, Dr. Monique. I love to see it and participate in this conversation. Thank you.
Oh, okay, you can catch the other Dr. Monique, not the veganist Dr. Monique, but you can catch this Dr. Monique Gary every Wednesday on The Doctor Is In with Ricky Fairley, and that's our breast cancer show here on blackdoctor.org. And if you haven't been watching, what have you been missing? On Tuesday, we were doing What to Know from Dr. Mo every other Tuesday, and you just ask your questions. We just ask all kind of questions with What to Know with Dr. Mo. So it's a great program. Dr. May has got blogs and everything on blackdoctor.com, blackdoctor.org. So please, these doctors are wonderful physicians and they're giving up their time to help us all get healthy. So I'm going to have just a moment here just to say, look, understand this, that Dr. Mo is a breast cancer surgeon and she would leave surgery and come and do the program with us on Tuesday. And so please take what they're saying seriously because she doesn't want to see you. That's really get her out of her job.
Please.
She doesn't want to see you.
I'd rather be farming. It's true.
Rather be farming. Farming in Philadelphia.
You know what? We will have to have you back to talk about that because I want to get into that. So yes.
Okay. Right. We will do it. But yes, thank you so much. And this is what makes it worth it. So God bless you guys. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.